welcome to the LibreQuest podcast. My name is Matt, and this is episode 55. Today I'm joined by video game producer, life coach, Linux user, free software advocate, and wizard, Cahlen. How are things, Cahlen?
Going great. Thanks for having me on, Matt.
I called you Cahlen, didn't I? I should read you the intro because you're Cahlen.
No, because I don't even notice. People mispronounce my name my whole entire life, so I just know to keep going. It doesn't matter.
I'm sorry, Cahlen.
But it's Cahlen.
Yeah,
no worries.
All right, let's keep going. So I discovered you by doing a search for Linux on the Brighteon platform, and I saw you installing Linux on a Chromebook. And so I was actually wondering if you could talk a bit about that. Like, are you still using, Linux on that Chromebook, and what distro?
Sure. So I am. It's a Chromebook Pro. It's just a nice one. It's got, you can flip the screen back, and it's kind of like a tablet, and you can touch the screen and all this type of stuff. And I would kind of moved into living very simply. So right now I'm basically living out of my backpack, and so I need things to be compact. And I also was aware that government overreach and spying from companies and stuff like that was going to be a problem then and in the future, as we were seeing it is. And I just thought I need to not be using Windows or Mac. And so I decided to learn Linux, and I had a Chromebook already, and I'm just like, there's got to be a way to do this. And I looked it up, and there was, and it's called Gallium OS. It's actually, it's a distribution which is specifically designed to work with Chromebooks. And you can either wipe entirely the Chromebook, the Chrome OS from it, and then just install Linux, or you can actually dual boot it, which is actually pretty nice, but then, not as secure. And really, you can do almost anything you want on Linux, so why would you need the Chrome OS on there anyway? So, I don't use it too much anymore. It's on my solar electric bike right now. It's packed in, but I don't keep it with me in my backpack because I only have to use it very rarely because I run on a de-Googled Android phone, and I do everything on it. So including, I run 3 different servers, a Nextcloud server, my own IPFS website, and I also run a couple of WordPress websites on another server. So, and I do it all on the Android phone. So I probably might even be getting rid of the Linux laptop at some point.
And that is cool, though, for somebody who's maybe not security-minded and they're just interested in Linux, they can still do the dual boot option and kind of keep Chrome OS on there. So are you using F-Droid on your phone?
Yes, I use F-Droid, and that's basically a store that has a huge amount of open source free software for Android, and there's a lot of good stuff. And, there's Linux distributions, there's several of them for like the Pine phone and stuff like that. And they can even run on Android phones, but they just don't have very many apps. And even the free open source software for Android, there's a lot of stuff. And if you can't find something that you need, you can download it from the internet, not directly from Google, but you're just basically getting the installer file, and you can block its internet if you're trying to be secure. You can block its internet so that even if it was trying to connect with Google servers or with like Microsoft or whoever made the app, it's not going anywhere, and so you're just getting the functionality. So I edit all of my videos on a proprietary app, but it doesn't have access to the internet, so I know it's safe to use, and I know it can never be taken away from me as long as I have the installer file. So.
It is cool. Yeah, is it an APK format?
That's right.
So there's a text editor on F-Droid. I think it's called 921. I'm not really sure. Does that sound familiar?
No, I've never used that one.
Okay, I think that's the name of it. It's a really, really good text editor for the Android platform that I actually did development for one of my websites on for a year and a half, but then it got too big. I had to move to a computer. But yeah, there's just saying to say that, in F-Droid, there's all kinds of really cool applications that are available.
What kind of text editor? Is it like a coding text editor, like a Notepad++? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's very nice. Like you can do your, it will colorize your different code elements and that kind of stuff, kind of make it easier to work with.
Nice,
which is
good.
nice.
Yeah, I'm looking for something like that. What was the name of it again?
I think it's 921. I mostly use my KaiOS flip phone, but I do have an Android phone with that installed on there. But that's why I can't remember, or I would just look right now.
Okay, well, we'll figure it out after.
Yeah. So, what else was I was gonna? You mentioned your solar powered bike. Could you can you go into like the description of exactly what that means, like how it works? Because those are really cool.
So it is I bought an electric bike from the Rad Power Bikes company, and it's like baseline fat tire electric bike, and I basically bought a bunch of other things like racks and big square bags, and I built a battery out of lithium-ion cells, 18650s, the same that would be in a Tesla car or in your flashlight, and put solar panels on it, and basically I'm running from the battery I made when I'm driving, but it charges now at basically the same speed as it would charge on a sunny day if I were to plug it into a house. So on a sunny day, I'm charging just like I'm in a house. And I basically built this thing so that I just knew that we'd reach a point where, I'm not going to be able to buy gas, either because there's no gas or because, I have to have some sort of ID, which I'm not willing to have in order to buy gas, which I think both of those things are very likelihoods in very short term. So I'm just like, well, I want to be able to get around, but I don't want to have to, do what I'm being coerced to do. So I'll just build something that it doesn't matter what's going on in the world. I can get around. As long as the sun is shining, I can get around.
I'm just kind of curious about your battery cell that you made. Like, is it put together with fasteners, or do you have some sort of like welding tool that you use to weld the batteries together with like tin?
So I wish I had used a spot welder when I built it, because it's more kind of a permanent setup if the welds are strong enough. I built it using a system called Veruzined, which allows you to. It's like these little plastic caps that go on the top and the bottom, and then you connect them with little bars, and then you screw the bars in. And the nice thing about this is you can expand it or reduce from the battery pack as you want to. You can take it apart and fix or replace a specific cell, and you can't do that if you've welded it all together. You'd have to take the whole thing apart and do a whole welding job. So it's got benefits, but it tends to want to separate itself, and individual cells get disconnected. If you're going over bumps and stuff, and long-term disconnected cells leads to bad news. Could be, worst case scenario could be a very large unquenchable fire coming from my bike.
Yeah, and those fires tend to burn white hot, and they don't want to go out.
Yes.
Yeah. So on your battery, like, sorry to go into the battery so much, just oh, sorry about that. Are you still with me?
I'm still with you.
Okay, good. Yeah, I got a phone call, and I'm surprised we're still connected on the internet. Okay, so sorry about that. I think that's the first time that's happened. But
no worries.
Yeah, so on the battery, I'm kind of curious. Like, do you have is it that you've built some in series, some in parallel that are kind of put together at a certain voltage?
Right. So a single max charged 1860 battery cell is 4.2 volts. But the bike needs to be somewhere up near 54.6 volts in order to run. And so what you do is you put it in series, which means you put the positive end to the negative end of the next battery, which adds the voltage each time. So I have 13 total in series, so that's 4.2 times 13 is 54.6. And then you can have a row of series, and then you can add other 13 row series to each other, kind of side to side in parallel, with positive to positive and negative to negative, and that just adds their capacity to each other. They basically become like one battery, and so that's how you add more holding capacity. And I think I can't remember, I think it's 10. Wow. 10 in parallel. So I think I can go 100 miles on ideal terrain. I've gone 53 miles up a mountain road. So, and I still had a decent amount of battery left. So I'm pretty sure I could go 100 miles.
Yeah. So how many altogether with the 10? How many amp hours are you looking at for each cell?
Oh, Well, I got the best at the time, so amp hours per cell is 35 milliamps,
Okay.
milliamp hours.
So
3,500, right?
Yeah, so that would be
So 3
times 10, about 35 amp hours. Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty
Yeah,
serious.
35, and then times that by 54.6, and we'll get the total watt hours, which I think is how people generally think about these things. But
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So you're also, because this is super, super interesting. You spent a lot of time as a game producer, but you started as a tester. And so I'm kind of curious as to like what kind of titles you were testing. And then I'm even more curious about the titles that you actually produced in your time in the gaming industry.
sure. Well, I was living kind of in the Seattle area, lots of gaming companies around there, and I got a gamer testing job, and within a year or two, I was a game test lead, and did that for about 7 years, and tested games like Gears of War, Fable 1 and 2, Mass Effect, basically any big game that came through Microsoft, I probably touched it because I had a very unique role in that company in that I ran a team of testers who were not just testing for bugs, but were testing for quality, testing for usability. It was like a team of 6 people, and a game would be like, we want to hire this team to play our game for a week and tell us what they think of our game. And, we're gamers, that's what we do. And so, we're legit feedback. And so, yeah, basically we just ran that team for a long time. And because of the nature of it, most of the games that Microsoft was producing would come to our team at least once during their life cycle, and some many times. So,
Very
yeah,
cool.
anyways, basically any big Microsoft published game, I pretty much tested it at least when I was there, which was about 7 years. And then after that, I got a job at Monolith Productions, which is a game company, kind of still in the Seattle area. And I worked on Gotham City Imposters, which is a like online first-person shooter type game.
Okay.
Two teams against each other. So, but it's kind of got a funny element too. It's kind of a joke, but it was a really good game, and I don't think it got as much praise as it deserved. And then I worked on the last 2 big Lord of the Rings games. So that's Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, and these are basically like, if you played Arkham Knight, that kind of fighting style, but also at the same time being like a Lord of the Rings movie, and also bringing in all kinds of other elements like from Assassin's Creed and stuff like that. Basically taking all the coolest elements from all the coolest games of the time, putting it into a Lord of the Rings movie, basically, and setting you free with actually a pretty innovative system. Now I'm not even remembering what we called it. But yeah, it's basically, I don't know if you played those games, but basically you basically come across like the leader orcs. You're always fighting orcs, but you can come across orcs which have kind of risen up in the hierarchy of things, and they have become more powerful. And so they're a little mini boss. And actually, the more you fight them, they remember the history of how your battles have gone and all this type of stuff, and they talk to you every time you meet them. And so basically, it's like, I don't know, it was just, those were just freaking amazing games. I'm super proud to have been a part of making them.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I have played them. Like, I have some in my Steam library. I don't remember which one it is. It might be Shadow of Mordor. But I wasn't very good at them, so I didn't get very far.
Yeah, we did make them a little bit difficult, especially with the first one. People were unhappy about that. I like challenging games, though. As I get older, I get lazier, and I'm not willing to put up with failing. So I know what you mean.
So you had a long history in the gaming industry. You started as a tester, then a producer. But how did you get introduced to the idea or the availability of like free software versus proprietary?
Oh man, I mean, I feel like I've known about it a long time. I've been into computers a long time, but I never really cared much about the open source stuff. I always thought, why would I settle for something that's a little less quality just for some principle? And later in my life, I'm like, well, that principle's pretty fucking important. and basically, supremely important now from my perspective, especially looking at the way the world is, a way that is controlled by proprietary software systems, and then the people who control them, and then people become dependent on them. So many people are dependent on Google. Some people, they don't even know how to switch away from Gmail, right? Even if they wanted to, they wouldn't even know. People don't know what mail forwarding is. They don't know how to solve these problems, and so they won't even attempt it. And so that's why open source is important, and also for security. Because I'm using a de-Googled phone. I make videos. I talk about what the government's doing. I'm not gonna pull any punches. I'm gonna speak the truth, and I'm fully aware that that's going to get me into hot water. And so I want to be as secure as possible. I want to be spied on as little as possible. And so plus Linux. Once I started using it, it's just like, I like this software better. I don't know why. It is a little bit, tiny bit clunkier, even the good ones, but it's still, I like it more. I don't know.
It has more personality, maybe.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, that's certainly a good reason to get into it, is for the, privacy or freedom respecting aspects, depending on what, because there's different. It's very, fractured just because of the license and the way it goes. There's so many distributions, but there's also a lot of different reasons that people use it. It might be for, for some people just the technical interest, or for some people the ideology of free software, or for security. There's so many good reasons to use it. I don't think there's very many negative reasons against it, at least these days.
No, and I was surprised. I was surprised how easy it was to learn and how good the software was. So. I think people just don't know. That's the problem.
Yeah, I think so. And I think there's a lot of missed opportunity as far as people getting introduced to it, just because of, it doesn't get shipped except for a very few companies. And the big companies that ship it, it's not like their main selling point at their company. It's usually a Windows-based. You even have like Dell or HP or some of those companies where you can get Linux, but it's not something that people are typically aware of.
Right. Well, they don't realize why it's important, and I think that people will realize why it's important. I think people are realizing it right now, and that will accelerate drastically and go much louder than it is now, I think. And at the end of it, I think, assuming people who want freedom win, I think Linux will be king.
That would be interesting to see, for sure. That would be very interesting to see. So I want to switch gears a little bit, because you had brought up IPFS websites, and this is something that I'm not really familiar with, so I was kind of hoping that you could explain what that is and how you use that.
Sure. So the reason I got into IPFS is because it's basically a distributed, so let's start a little simpler. IPFS stands for Interplanetary File System, and basically the idea is that as humanity expands, we will be on different planets and maybe in different star systems. And so if we're looking for a file, it's not good that it's only maybe on Earth, because maybe someone on Mars, on the planet that I'm on, has already gotten that file from Earth, and they have it more locally, and so I can get it much more quickly and efficiently. So that's basically the idea behind Interplanetary File System. Anyone who's looked at the file has the file.
Very cool.
And
so
then when you go looking for the file, you try and find the person who's closest to you, who's going to give you the best connection to that file.
Wow, that's all. And but this is based on like a website, basically.
It's a protocol, so it's like HTTP, IPFS. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically the reason I got into it is because I can on my Android phone, I can open up the terminal and I can type in IPFS add and then the file, and I'm going to get a code back. It's a hash, and that hash can only have been made from this file. If I change one letter about this file, it's going to be a different hash. So I can say, here, person, I can text someone that hash and say, get this hash from IPFS, and they'll request it on their end, and my phone will send it directly to them.
Okay, that's pretty
So,
amazing. Yeah. So this is
so
it's.
basically,
Oh, sorry. Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
All right.
No, you go
Well,
ahead.
I was thinking that I wasn't sure what it was. I thought this was like maybe a web front end, something like that. But you're saying it's like a protocol, a distribution protocol that automatically will find the nearest location to you as far as the, I guess, bit rate of the transfer speed.
Yeah, I don't know. There's probably several criterias there that they're looking for, but I don't know specifically what they are, but I would assume yes, potential speed is a high factor.
That's cool. Yeah, I hadn't heard of that. That's pretty. That's pretty freaking cool, man. Um, So yeah, I also wanted to talk about because you are a wizard. Can you tell me what that exactly entails? That's foreign to me, right? So I want to know. I want to know exactly what
Yeah,
that entails. Yeah, go ahead.
sure. So basically, I call a wizard. People like have many definitions of wizard, but my definition of wizard is someone who seeks the truth. They have made a commitment to finding out what the truth is, no matter how horrible or difficult finding out that truth might be, and then using that knowledge gained through that pursuit to for the benefit of yourself and other people. So a sorcerer would be someone who seeks knowledge and will use it for themselves and maybe even to the detriment of other people. So anyways, I'm just someone who's looking for what's true about what's going on, and I've committed to also doing my best to help other people with that knowledge.
And is that kind of the foundation of your life coaching service that you provide?
Uh, hmm, Foundation. I mean, I would say it's one way that I do that. It's like
Okay.
specifically people want to know more, they want basically me to either people want to kind of have me listen to what's going on in their life and help them think through it. So
Mhm.
that's one kind of type of coaching that I do. But then another type is like, well, look, people are like, Cahlen knows how to make, de-Googled Android phones. Can I talk to him for an hour about this and ask any questions? So it's almost more of a, I don't know, you might call it a mentorship or what would they call that? I'm just advising
Yeah.
basically. So,
Very cool.
but yeah, so that's one element. One way that I reach people, and that's reaching people one at a time. And then I make videos, so that's a way of reaching a large number of people at a time.
So I noticed you had a video about Wizard's Brew, and I'm just kind of curious. I want to hear about the Wizard's Brew, right? What's in it, what goes into it, how it's beneficial. But I also want to hear like, are there any other interesting recipes that you have as far as like health wise?
Sure. So I've gone through a pretty big health journey, and that basically changed my life entirely. And I was by the end of my time at Monolith Productions, I felt like a superstar. I felt like I was just rocking it, and I was managing a large percentage of what was going on, and it was all due to changing how I was eating and also taking supplements and all that type of stuff. So then I went through a large phase where I'm really focused on minimalizing because I was living in a yurt, then I was living in my truck, and now I'm living under my raincoat basically out of a backpack. And when you're doing that, you have to kind of minimize things. I can't carry a blender around with me all the time, so I have to come up with new solutions for yeah. So and also simplicity. So anyways, I've kind of trained myself to live off of coconut oil. My body is very used to running off of coconut oil as a fuel. And so I basically am drinking it with water, and I can, that's enough, but of course I like to get other nutrients and stuff like that. So I make a hot chocolate drink. It's got cocoa, it's got xylitol, which is actually good for people who have blood sugar problems, and it's also really good for your teeth. Like, to be honest, I rarely need to brush my teeth. I maybe brush my teeth once a week, and it's not even necessary then, and that's largely because I'm consuming xylitol daily. And then, I put other things. I like to experiment with other things like reishi mushrooms or ginseng, just kind of see how it affects the flavor. Ceylon cinnamon, by the way, is a very important element. It's Ceylon cinnamon. Most people have never actually even had it, but it's actually the healthy cinnamon. The other normal cinnamon that everyone has is actually kind of poisonous in a way. So, anyways, Yeah, so I just mix it all together. I actually, at this point, have gotten it to the point where it's all mixed in with the coconut oil already in a little container I can keep in my backpack, like super concentrated energy, like 7,500 calories in, a little jar. And I can eat it slowly over time. So I can either add it to hot water or I can just eat it with a spoon.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting stuff. So, Cahlen, thank you. I'm going to try to make sure and say your name correctly, but Cahlen, thank you so much for accepting my invitation to be on the podcast. Thanks for being here. How can listeners find you online? Like, where are the different platforms? And if they want to reach out to you, how would they do that?
So my website is cahlen.org. It's CAHLEN.org. And that's the place I would say people should go because, I am pretty much everywhere. If you're on a major thing like BitChute or YouTube or Odyssey or many, many more, then you'll probably find some of my videos. But if you want to make sure you're seeing all my videos, then you'll have to go to my website. You can also sign up for my newsletter, and I send out an automated email once a week with whatever I posted that week. So basically, it's like a subscription service which cannot be censored as long as I still have my domain name.
Excellent. Well, thank you again so much for being here, Cahlen.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, you can join me on Locals at LibreQuest.locals.com, where I'll be posting exclusive interviews, some of my music, and other things, and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about as well. For other ways to support me, you can visit LibreQuest.org, that's LibreQuest.org, and thank you for being a listener. Until next time, I'm Matt, and this is LibreQuest.